birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Joy is prepping to ya. Happy birthday. What's up, Chuck Hobbs? And happy birthday to my brother from another mother, almost literally.
Literally, yeah, almost. You're right. Thank you so much, good dude. Good evening, Andrea Joy, and I am glad to be here with you. Yesterday was I'm one of those people. I don't really go hard and go big on my birthday. I like to reflect and be kind of, just thinking. I'm like that on New Year's Eve too. Like I know how a lot of people love the New Year's Eve party scenes or going to watch night. I just like to be alone and pray and think and thank God for what he's brought me through. And this past year, it's been something else. I mean, it's not just for all of us, but definitely for me. I've tried to be as transparent as I could be, but it was tough. It has been tough, and things are getting better. But I was just grateful. And I put a post up yesterday because I was kind of, how when we grew up in the church, all of us, and, the deacons used to lead those devotions, and, they sitting there lining hymns and thanking God for waking them up, blood running warm in their bodies. And when I was 9, 10, and 11, I used to be like, wow, Deacon so-and-so says the same thing every week. Like, is there something else he could say during the devotion? But now at 49 instead of 9, I totally get it, because just like both of you, I've lost family, I've lost friends to the coronavirus, to other diseases and maladies. People have lost jobs. My own business stuff has been up and down during the course of the past year. And so, I'm just thankful. And I'm thankful for you two, thankful for Sharon, thankful for the Sharpies, thankful for obviously all of the Hobbses and Williamses and all the other derivations of my family tree across the world. And I really am hopeful for another 49 years now. Actuarially, that's probably not realistic, but
word one, actuarially,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But and that's another thing, y'all. As I get older, I really also do the take one day at a time thing seriously too. You remember when we were in high school and college? I know at FAMU, Morehouse, and Spelman, teachers are always asking you, "What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan?" And that's all to an extent. It's good to have a roadmap, but like life has that winding staircase, and you don't ever really know, what's going to happen. And sometimes opportunities come out of left field for you to do some different things. And again, one of the greatest joys I have had this past year, no pun, joy, is being with you all. I mean, think about it. This time last year, Tom, this did not exist.
It did not exist.
It did not exist. And we've been able to develop our individual platforms. You've got Thomas talking. Joy has thoughts and moments. I do the observation point stuff. This virtual Zoom punditry really, yields for some potential possibilities here for us forward. And I think that we have a talented group, and I love you all. Y'all are my sister, my brother, Sharon, our other sister, who will be here shortly, we hope. And yeah, man, let's get at it. I had a great birthday, and looking forward to next year, maybe God willing, number 50. And that's a milestone year. And then maybe we can turn up together as a group, maybe have an actual formal Friday night or round table Hobbs turn up where we can sip the yak and the Uncle Nearest and whatever it is that floats y'all's boat at the moment. Joy, what you sipping on this week?
Oh, yes. I meant to tell you. Today's show is brought to you by Hunch Punch. When you've got just a little bit of 5 different types of liquor left in each container, pour it all in a glass and add some juice. It's delicious, and it's guaranteed to get you where you want to be in about 30 minutes. Hunch Punch on any college campus near you.
I was telling you guys in pre-show when I made Noop Juice down to the frat house on 730 Wales. My little secret ingredient was I'd get one of those 10-pound cans of tropical fruit, not regular fruit, not grapes and peaches and pears, the tropical fruit. So it'd be like papayas and mango chunks and pineapple chunks. And I'd pour the juice in with the and the and then I would take that fruit and I'd put it in one of those big gallon Ziploc bags and poke some knife holes in it and then set that in the punch. And then when everybody had finished consuming the punch, I'd take that and freeze that as a nice little fruit cocktail.
Nice.
Nice.
Real nice.
I mean, I am here to tell you.
Yeah.
That fruit
that
cocktail is the business. Look, and can we say for a second, look at Hobbs' little cheeks now.
Oh my God.
Look at his little cheeks. He got his little white turtleneck on with the little 2-button placket and the red and the white and the blue. And he's looking over at old Hobbs like, what you finna do, bruh?
Right.
We're finna get into, bruh.
That's right.
Tom, it's funny that you post that too, man. That's one of my favorite pictures. It's one of my mom's favorite pictures. And in fact, it's one of those things where she's like, where did you get that from? Because I put it in my blog and she was reading it. And I was like, Mom, I haven't stolen the picture from your house. I just took a picture of the picture. Yeah, and what have you to put into the whatever. But my pop used to always pick on me about that because he used to always note that straight out the womb, my fists were always balled up. And he used to tease me like, I thought you were going to be the next Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier. Said you always were, frowned up. And if you weren't smiling, said you were frowned up and had those fists balled. And so I've always taken that from the standpoint of I came ready to rumble.
That's right.
Exactly. And so that's what we do. We rumble within our professions. We rumble on Friday night, giving the business to whatever BS needs to be addressed. And we have plenty of BS to address.
Oh, we got a lot of BS today. Now, for those of you who may not have seen or have not subscribed to Chuck's podcast offering, first of all, please do that. Observation Point. That picture, I got this picture actually from the blog, and so it is well worth reading. This is Born to Fight Bigotry. So he was talking about his little balled up fist. You can see that little fist right there in the lower left-hand corner. And he looks like he's smiling, but that fist is ready for that action.
No doubt, man. No doubt.
And he has been definitely fulfilling that prophecy of being one who was ready to battle bigotry for his entire life. And so we are celebrating Chuck Hobbs today, and we just want everybody to be sure that they give him his flowers. And if you think you are getting the best of Chuck just on Steel Sharpened Steel, you need to understand this man is Pulitzer nominated. So he doesn't get to fully delve on the absolute loquacity of which he is of renown, just because we don't use words like loquacity with too much urgency on this podcast. But if you want to read some in-depth analysis about things and issues of the day, you really do need to subscribe to Chuck's cast. And I know he's going to pop that link in the chat so that people can see it. It's a small price to pay.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's less than a month of Netflix, and a
lot less than a month of Netflix.
Exactly. And I myself, unbeknownst to Chuck, I plagiarize a lot of his shit on a daily for things that I do. I'm like, this is an interesting point about this law from 100 years ago. Let me put this into my presentation. And wow, the white people are like, yes, I'm just that smart.
Hey, but you family, you family. So, hey, Joy. Matter of fact, Joy, I'm sending this to you right now, so you can do me the honor, because I'm like the least techie among us.
Oh, here we go. On
the platform. Yeah, y'all know I'm like for all the Pulitzer and the, like Tom said, the fallopiate and all of that type of stuff. I don't know how to. I'm stuck in Netscape era.
Oh wow. Not Netscape.
Yeah, I'm out here like Netscape. So Joy, I just sent that to you. If you could put that link in the text in the chat, I'd be much obliged.
He's using Netscape to access his Earthlink account.
Right. Right.
CompuBase. Chuck Hobbs at MySpace. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
No, Black Planet.
Didn't Solange buy Black Planet or something?
I thought Black Planet was kind of trying to make a comeback or something. I know MySpace briefly tried to do it. And MySpace Tom, his name was Tom. And so everybody was a friend of MySpace Tom. And this dude tried to drag him on Twitter, talking about you couldn't even keep a social media platform alive. He said, "Yeah,
Thanks, bro.
I retired at 29 with $575 million, and you're probably still living in your mom's basement. So
Oh, wow.
live with that."
But y'all know what, though? On that same note, something I talk about from time to time, and I know y'all remember it. We missed a grand opportunity as Black people in the mid-aughts with those roundups. You remember the Rattler
Yes.
roundup?
I do remember the roundups. They were great.
They were awesome. They were awesome. Like long before I ever had a Facebook account, man, that thing was like virtual homecoming,
Yes.
being back on the yard. And
I
you could go
remember
to
there
other
was a
schools,
subgroup.
roundups. I had an account for Grambling
roundup called the Rack, the meat rack, based on the spot between Spelman and Morehouse, where you could like check in with somebody. And so we all in there kikiing and flirting. Well, I think one dude actually got married out of there.
Oh wow!
But, yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and it felt like being a college sophomore, super senior, or something all over.
It really was, and it was a nice setup, man.
I loved Rattler Roundup, and until they started to die, and Facebook kind of just took over the whole space. That was the lick. I loved it. I liked the little silos, and you could bounce to different little roundups, and you knew that you were getting, just what you were trying to get. But on the subject, while we're trying to give Sharon a little more time to join us, while we're on the subject of foolishness and marriage,
yes,
I'm gonna throw this to you, Joy, because I do watch this trash, but this trash happened after the season was over. What is going on with Portia Williams and stealing that? Did you hear about that? Do you know about the Real House? Okay,
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Real Housewives of Atlanta, Portia Williams started off married to that old baseball player who was a controlling ass, and then divorced him. And 4, 5, 7, 11 seasons later, she got pregnant for this dude who owns a hot dog restaurant in Atlanta and had a baby for him. And then that didn't work out.
The jokes just write themselves right there.
The jokes just write themselves. But speaking of hot dogs, she engaged with some bachelorette party fun with a scripper and tried to pretend like she hadn't engaged in some party fun with the scripper, but she's a single lady. She can do whatever she wants. Cordell Stewart. Thank you, Erica Goodwin. So she got with this scripper and spent the next 7 episodes trying to deny that she had gotten with the scripper, only for it to be established by the end of the season that yes, she had, and she was grown and she could do what she wants.
Did he give her chlamydia?
He did not.
They all have it.
He didn't give her anything except the hot dog. And so what come to find out, after the last of the 3 reunion specials, which was 2 reunion specials more than we actually needed, turns out she is engaged to the ex-husband of a chick that was featured on the show, whose house she went to for a Halloween party. And so the scandal is that he filed for divorce in January or something, and then undid the divorce, and then redid the divorce, and then a month after the divorce was did, she engaged with, and I mean a rock of Gibraltar.
Okay.
I mean big ass diamond, and posed on Mother's Day with the baby daddy and the new fiance.
Oh, that's what everybody was like blowing up, because I don't know.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. That's what that was. And she was doing the most. Wait, Anthony says, oh, go ahead, Joy. You got it. She was with the hot. Yes. I said it. You late. I'd been done already said it. Bolo. His name was Bolo. That was the stripper. Wow. And that was Candy's fault. Candy brought Bolo to the party.
She was banging a dude named Bolo.
I mean, that's not his Christian name. He didn't come out the Woomba named Bolo, but I guess eventually
he chose that for something.
He chose. I think it's an acronym. I can't imagine what the acronym is, but
Jason Hayes wilding out.
What do you
Can't
say,
take them
Portia?
Florida boys nowhere.
Well, I mean, listen.
Give me everything you got for this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, dude.
He bought a phone just for pictures.
Dude engaged her after everybody knew she had the hot dog from the stripper. And that was on TV. It's one thing, everybody know you got to pass whatever. No, but nobody's critiquing you. But to have it busted wide open, something ain't right.
Oh God.
Portia to woman. Oh, it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, she was doing a heck of a lot that night, and they tried to turn the cameras off. They didn't turn off the cameras soon enough because it was a lot. He is African Stacy. Well, it's a lot. It's certainly an African name, and she's fine. Portia is still fine, but somebody said she's a little dim. Yeah, she's a little dim some.
Now, isn't Portia the woman who is the granddaughter of Jose?
Yes,
the great civil rights leader?
Right, yes. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
she did, to her credit, she was all in Black Lives Matter and was marching in the streets and got arrested. And nobody can take away the fact that she took a stand.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, for her little tagline this season, it was, I'm here for social justice or social something. I don't care about social media, but I'm here for social justice. Something like that.
Well, I mean, we ain't gonna sit here with double standards and act like MLK ain't have some strange on the side.
Well,
everybody got skeletons.
The funny thing is, Joy, when it was 1990, I was getting ready to graduate from high school and head up to Morehouse, and that's when
Jackson tracks.
That's when brother Ralph Abernathy's book "And the Walls Came Tumbling Down" came out.
Yeah.
Y'all remember he was all on the Donahue show and Oprah, because there was a little small segment. It was a wonderful book, but everybody wanted to focus on the salacious small little segment where he was talking about how Dr. King was on them Slims. And I remember my mom's comment, because my parents were old school parents. I didn't have parents where I could jokey talk about sex with and none of that type of stuff. Like it was, you better not get no girl pregnant and you better keep your mouth shut and don't be doing nothing crazy in my house. So like all of my little undercover high school being grown was really undercover because I didn't have a dad or a mom that I could joke with about that. Right. Mm-hmm. But I remember my mom making a comment, like without breaking stride. She was like, so he's telling what Dr. King was doing. My first question is, well, what was he doing in the next room? And it was like the Jeopardy music came on. Tom could do it better than I can, but I'll get the point. I was like, it is what it is. So that goes back to Joy's comment, which is got to be careful on that rock throwing and aspersion casting, because again,
that's why I would never run for public office.
Mm-hmm. Stacy, I am eating these gourmet Virginia peanuts, which are the artisan chili series. These are flavored with habanero and sea salt. So those are those ultra crunchy Virginia peanuts.
Delightful.
They are delightful. I absolutely
I am
agree.
half done with my hunch punch on an empty stomach.
Okay.
We'll see how this goes in about 15 minutes.
My
product placement. I'm on these Planters peanuts.
See?
And I have the Uncle Nearest bottle with it.
Hey, you held up the Planters. You got to hold up the Uncle Nearest a little longer.
He did. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
A little bit longer. Uncle Nearest, when you only want to sip the best.
That's the 1820.
And this week, I even got a little Coke Zero to chase it so that I don't look like a wino on national internets.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying that my peanuts are bougie. I claim it. I'm not ashamed of my bougie leanings. They can be they're artisanal. Look.
I got you. True there.
I'm not. Ain't no shame in my game. And I am wearing my Dion shirt today. I bought a whole bunch of Dion. They had a sale. I bought so much Dion. Addie sent me an email saying, "Wow, Thomas, thank you for your order."
Nice.
That's right.
Sis. Know you by name.
That's right.
I want to talk about what Tara's saying here though. Like she's got a point. We vilify and ridicule a lot of different celebrities. It's like I'm gonna laugh all the way to the bank. She making sure she got that check for another year. So that all publicity is publicity, right?
Yes.
So can't hate on that. I can't hate the game.
Portia didn't need to be married. It's only 2 women on that whole damn show who are married now. We're talking about Real Housewives. It's only Cynthia Bailey, and Cynthia Bailey just got married this season. It's just Candy.
A Real Housewives show that had all housewives on it.
I'll wait. Jersey. The first season of Jersey, everybody was married.
Okay.
Oh wait, maybe that's not true because the one they kicked off right away with the black hair, maybe she wasn't married. Most of them are married. This now, Teresa, the main Teresa Giudice, her husband got deported, and so she ain't married. But I think most of the rest of them. It's silly anyway. That's just my trash. My daughter loves the Real Housewives shows, and so I started watching Atlanta a long time ago, and it's funny to me.
Anyway, with a real hard cut segue. Speaking of marriage, I want to bring to everyone's attention potential representative Anthony Bouchard.
Talk about it.
If you don't know who Anthony Bouchard is, I suggest you Google him. He is trying to replace the now ousted Liz Cheney for her spot in the Republican and be in the Republican Party. However, I find it interesting how QAnon and the rest of the hard right conspiracy theorists always want to say the Democrats have some pedophile ring in a pizza parlor somewhere, because Anthony Bouchard, when he was 18 years old and an adult, got a 14-year-old girl pregnant. And that is what he said.
Wait a minute. That's not a joking meme. That's his direct quote.
No, that is a quote
from the Facebook Live that he did, saying, yes, I did this. And here's how they are spinning it. And I will say this. There's a few things. I read an article about this all earlier, and I will give him credit on a couple of things. He did admit that it was not Liz Cheney's party or Liz Cheney's campaign that was going after him. He was trying to stay above the line as much as he could. He did say that this happened a long time ago, and they're pulling out some trash on me to try to sully my campaign, but it wasn't Liz. It's just an independent group. So he didn't play that he said, she said politics. And I appreciate him for that. I also appreciate the spin that he is trying to put on this of, yes, we were young and stupid. And it's like Romeo and Juliet. He said that. He said it's like Romeo and Juliet, who both died after he was crazy. But this story does get dark and tragic. I do not want to sully the memory of this woman who has not been named for her own privacy.
They have not named her.
Her family. But Bouchard is out here like, yes, I was 18, she was 14. That's a jail sentence for statutory rape, first of all. Yes, the statute of limitations has probably run out by now, but the story gets worse. He married her. There was a lot of pressure from unknown sources. He doesn't say where. He just said it was a lot of pressure to get an abortion, but I wasn't going to do that.
And neither was she.
And she wasn't going to do that either. I have a question there. They got married. She was 15 in the state of goddamn Florida. Florida, you can get married at 15 without parental consent, although I'm sure she did have it. But you can get married at 15 in Florida as long as the judge approves it. And it's even more likely to happen if there's a pregnancy involved. So she got married at 15, had a baby with him. They were married for 3 years. And then they got divorced when she was 15, 16, 17, 18-ish. And then she committed suicide at 20. And he says that it was part of another relationship gone wrong. And then she had a lot of mental issues. I'm not surprised at that, because considering having a child at 14 and a half, 15 years old, being married to someone who then goes off to live their college life, right? And you're with a kid. I can imagine that the stress of that would be more than some know how to bear at that age. So I do not vilify or judge her for the choices that she made. But his son is somewhere growing right now. And all he can say is, we're estranged and he's made some bad choices. You're a fucking U.S. representative, or want to be. I'm gonna need you to throw your kid some rehab, some bones, some charity, whatever. You shouldn't be out here saying, well, he just messed up his life. Take care of your kids. We talk about all the deadbeat dads and stuff all around here. You sound a real deadbeatish Mr. Bouchard, I'm gonna need you to go find your kid. And well, he's probably 30 or so or more by now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Listen, I'm going to.
He is. Wait. He is R. Kelly and Kirk Franklin all wrapped into one.
Wrapped into
First
one.
of all, at least R. Kelly produced some legendary jams. All this dude has contributed is bad faith legislation and pedophilia. Don't throw him in the same bucket with R. Kelly and Kirk Franklin. And I will say this, in order to disparage him even further, I'm going to read this quote in the voice of Adam Sandler's Bobby Boucher. And I do it again. Mama said she didn't want me to be with Vicky, but I love her, and I told her that I was going to do it again.
Dude, so you got that down pat.
You do
that
not
is eerily good.
Yeah.
You do not get to say.
Definitely.
And people are going to say, Tom, the whole you got to do context and the whole quote. No, I don't, because if this was a slam meme about Nancy Pelosi, and she had said something, they'd pull exactly the words they wanted to use and put it on the meme. He said he'd do it again.
And I understand that the implication that he wanted to have with that was,
which is I would not abort the child. Exactly.
Right.
But it wasn't. Listen.
He was banging the child.
It needs to be said. You were a senior and she was in middle school.
Yeah.
8th grade is middle school.
Yeah, it is.
Yo, you trolling middle schools for trim, dude. That's nasty.
Like, that's just 14.
But you know what else doesn't surprise me? On January 20th, Bouchard announced that he would challenge Liz Cheney in the 2022 United States House of Representatives election primaries, following her vote in the second impeachment of Donald Trump and her state's GOP decision to censor her afterward. Bouchard's main supporter is Matt Gaetz of Florida, who campaigned for him in Wyoming. Raise your hand if you're surprised by pedophiles sticking together.
Birds of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
Birds of a feather. Birds of a feather.
But the conspiracy was that the Democratic Party was hiding pedophile rings and pizza parlors, but they out here on on Cash App and Venmo and everything.
Whole Venmo receipts. And you know, Matt Gaetz had the temerity to talk about the Cuomo brothers because, you know, Governor Cuomo was in hot water behind his sexual allegations. Erica, technically she could have been, but technically she was still a child.
She was 14.
Not even technically. Officially,
even
she was a child.
Even in
Florida. You talk about Romeo and Juliet.
They died.
Yeah.
They committed suicide.
Also, it is not Renaissance Verona. You were in damn Florida in the 80s, bro.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the 1680s, the 1980s.
And
you're talking and you're sleeping, having a girlfriend who's 14, girlfriend, whatever. That's different from having intercourse. And you didn't get her pregnant on the first time, so let's be clear about that.
Right. You was banging as in.
Let's be clear about that. You damn pedophile. Go ahead, Chuck.
Right,
it's one of those things where, you know, you living here in Florida, having practiced law here, Florida doesn't play when it comes to the lewd and lascivious charges and or child sex cases. I mean, really, and when I say doesn't play, it's like the guideline score sheet that you all hear about, which is, you know, it's guidelines, of course. You know, judges can go below if they're given significant mitigating. Sorry, Uncle Nears is kicking in. Significant mitigating factors, or they can go higher depending on what the aggravators might be. But I'm telling you from experience that in L&L cases and child sex cases, I'm talking about folks who have no prior criminal history. I have watched judges send folks to prison for 10 to life on just that charge. Now, on the charge that he probably would have been charged with, probably been lewd and lascivious. I have seen judges max 18, 19, 20-year-old guys out for 15 years for having sex with 15 and 16-year-old girls.
Right.
And the whole argument of, well, you know, 100 years ago, My grandma was 16 and she married my grandpa and he was 22. I'm like, yeah, that was then.
Right.
This is now. And with it now, they will lock you up. And like you say, this wasn't that long ago. So he dodged one down here in Florida. When it comes to that, obviously it's too late, statute of limitations, and the alleged victim or the victim is deceased. So there will be no case. But yeah, there's got to be some better explaining than what he's doing. But again, that's what the whole modern GOP has become now. All right. We're going to try to make a martyr out of him. Oh, he was honorable. He married her, as opposed to, isn't there somebody better that y'all can use to primary Liz Cheney? Why him? Why do you have to go with him? It's the same thing we talked about last week. And we've talked about many times about Donald Trump. Of all of the men and women in that Republican primary back in 2016, whether you like their politics or not, there were some brighter and more patriotic people that Republicans could have chosen from, but they chose him. And so that again shows where the GOP is right now. It's rough, and I'm not sure that they'll be able to turn the tide necessarily from a national standpoint. They'll continue to control in the Deep South because at the end of the day, in the Deep South, what still sells is racism. So as long as you're perceived to be the party that's against the Negroes, they'll be fine here for the rest of our lives and probably deep into the 21st century, if not beyond. But nationally, they're going to struggle when they continue to prop up the Gates and this guy. How do you pronounce his name again, y'all?
Bouchard.
Bouchard or whatever. Where are they getting these folks from? That's what I keep asking.
Well, there are no shortage of people who are trying to primary Liz Cheney. It's apparently about 8 or 9 people in the primary field that are coming for her neck. And it's going to be very, very tough for her to prevail. But this guy to be the person who, quote unquote, is jumping out in front of the story, somebody should have been told him, Bouchard. I mean, we know that people don't like Cheney, but you can't be the dude jumping up in here first up. That's just not a good look.
Now,
go ahead,
I do want to say this before we close that out is, I spoke before about journalistic integrity because Chuck would not comment on something that he didn't know the whole story about. And I just want to say right now, the press does not have or has not released the name of the woman that he got pregnant or the child that he got pregnant who later committed suicide. And I hope that they don't, because I'm sure that her family has suffered enough. I'm sure that their son doesn't need this bullshit in his life. And I hope that they leave them alone. I mean, it's bad enough that the story is out. He did what he did, and he deserves all of vilification, but leave that other family out of it. And I hope they do not release those names.
Yeah.
Next up in Law and Order SVU, Matt Gaetz, finally, one of his quote-unquote ex-girlfriends is cooperating with federal authorities in the sex trafficking investigation. Now, this headline comes...
Wait, hang on. I want you to come in on me so I can do this right.
Okay, hold on. Now, this is fresh on the heels of Matt Gaetz trying to score points against Governor Mario Cuomo because Mario Cuomo is embroiled in some sexcapades of his own. Should be said, in all fairness, that none of the women that Mario Cuomo is accused of assaulting or intimidating or pressuring sexually was a minor child.
That part.
So,
he creeps on grown women.
Grown. And just because you were most of your Venmo transactions for sex, most of your $70,000 of Venmo transactions for sex were with adult women, a lot of those adult women were 18 and 19, and you were a grown-ass man. So let's be clear. None of these women whose tuition you were still paying, or maybe their rent, using your little hashtag emojis for your little sexcapades in your Venmo transactions, which are completely trackable. He was saying that, CNN isn't saying that Chris Cuomo was counseling his brother on his sex allegations, while there are no allegations from any of the women who were involved in the quote-unquote investigation about me. I guess except for your ex-girlfriend. And your partner, who Greenberg already pled out, and one of Greenberg's homies, who was also in your little dirty little frat boy party, has also pled out. So they both rolling on you. And
Tom, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. If this had been Final Jeopardy for the Tournament of Champions, I would have lost miserably.
That's right,
because
Andrew
I thought Matt Gaetz was gay. I'm still kind of blown away that 70,000 in Venmo transactions were going for the nookie, so to speak. I was just certain that he was gay, and so this is really surprising to me. And I'm still trying to do the math. Like 70,000, like how many transactions are we talking? Like, or how much was each transaction per? Like,
there was transportation across state lines that I guess was included in some of that stuff too.
Right.
But, just because he's got a lot of transactions for heterosexual sex doesn't mean that he didn't also engage in same-sex activities. He may be
gotcha. Yeah, that's true. But again, I see where one of the Sharpies said that it could all be a cover, which it very well could be too, which is I'm gonna play because hey, he's from over in the Panhandle. And Joy, I know you lived in Florida. Tom, you lived there for a long time. The Panhandle is as right-wing red as you can get. Like a Democrat has like zero chance of winning statewide or national office over. That's Trump country all day long, right? Once you get past about Quincy on I-10, once you get past Gadsden County, it's Trump country, right? And so that ain't gonna play too well. They ain't too kind to same-sex marriages and any of that stuff over there.
That goes back to what Patrice was saying, and he might have needed that cover.
It's underneath Alabama. Let's be clear. Like that whole little slice of Florida, from Jacksonville all the way to Pensacola, you got Alabama on this half, and you got Georgia on this half.
Georgia.
Don't get it confused.
Absolutely.
Do not get it confused. When we were in school together, Chuck, I don't know if you remember this, or when we were in Tallahassee at the same time, there was a slogan that Tallahassee debuted, and it was Tallahassee, Florida, with a Southern accent.
Tom, I remember that slogan. It used to be on bumper stickers, billboards, all across the city.
For a lot of people, Florida was Miami and Disneyland or Disney World. That was like what people thought of Florida. And when I was even being recruited by FAMU, one of the reasons I consider FAMU was because my vision of Florida was that it was a mile wide with beach on both sides. So when I was thinking Florida, I was thinking of this real long peninsula. It was just like I can dip my foot on this side and then go and dip my foot on the other side. That's what I thought I was getting in Florida. And so I had no idea there were places like Tallahassee or Clearwater or, whatever. It was like Disney World is there and Miami is there. Miami Vice and the Mouse. As a matter of fact, the very first time I went down to Florida and we got off the plane in Orlando, this little child was with us on the plane, and the first words out of her mouth as soon as the plane landed, "Where's the mouse, Grandma?" And Orlando is not. Orlando's not super duper far from Disney World, but this little baby was thinking Mickey Mouse was gonna put a lei around her neck or something. Like, you just here.
We got to drive, baby.
You got to get in a car and go. And so it is not surprising that, he might have felt, because he does seem like he was doing too much, like a lot too much. Showing naked pictures to people on the, in the House of Representative floor. And
too much.
Yeah, he was doing a lot. And then calling that boy his child.
Yeah, and the interesting thing,
Joy and I both slid our eyes.
His son, the Cabana boy. Yeah, and what's crazy is, y'all, I tell this story from time to time. When I first got a real sense that Donald Trump could beat Hillary Clinton back in 2016, it was late in the game. It was in October. I had a hearing down in Sanford, Florida, which is, as you know, adjacent to Orlando, in the greater Orlando area or whatever. And man, when I tell y'all that usually the I-4 corridor, so that's Tampa on across to Orlando over to Daytona, it's usually relatively blue. Like the northern parts of Florida, that we're talking about, with the exception of Tallahassee and parts of Gainesville, is pretty much blue, but every other part of it is generally red. But the Orlando area has been purple to blue most of my life. But man, when I was looking on the news that night when I got back to my hotel, and I knew that it had taken me like darn near 2 hours to get from the courthouse in Seminole County back to my hotel, which really was only about maybe 8 miles away. I was like, well, what in the I didn't know there was going to be a Trump rally that day. And so when I finally got back to the hotel and cut it on, and I started seeing all of these masses of folks, I was like, we might be in trouble here, because this is ordinarily blue country, and they are turned for this guy. And to our chagrin, that's ultimately what wound up happening. But yeah, I'm glad. See, we go literature, we go philosophy. Now we're talking geography on Steel Sharpens Steel. Letting our viewers know that Florida ain't what you think it is throughout most of the state.
Well, before we dance off of Florida, we had talked about Miami briefly, and I just want to say 2 high-ranking Miami police officers were fired together after an internal affairs investigation. Now, this is, okay, Chuck, you might have to help me out. I don't know if you were familiar with this. The name is spelled like the French word for paper, which is papier. I'm sure in Miami it's not papier, but maybe it's papier, or they may even just go paper. But,
they might go, papier or something like that, because a lot of times Cubans, and this is no besmirching the Cuban community. I know plenty. I sound like white folks now.
You got some Cuban friends now.
Right. I've got Cuban friends, but seriously, there are a lot of Cubans who really like to anglicize their names. I mean, I'm just being real, and to fit in. So, I see my cousin Amy McKendrick. She might be able to weigh in on how to pronounce that man's name too, because she's from down there in the 305 Miami-Dade. So I don't know, but it very well could be Papil or paper or whatever. But what's the deal with him, Tom?
So Nerly, who is the wife, or perhaps Nearly, she nearly killed someone when she crashed her vehicle under the influence. And apparently Hubbikins tried to shuffle the papier work to make it seem like it did not happen. And so they did a little internal investigation, and it was a non-injury crash, but she was drunk. She'd been drinking. And while she was drinking, she was driving all the way down until she crashed into a tree. and hubby had to try to slip that shit under the rug, and now she on. So just as unemployment benefits are running out, thanks to DeSantis, the Papier power couple in Miami is on the wrong side of the law and on the wrong side of the employment line, because they have been handed their walking papiers. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Speaking on an unfortunate side of someone who was given their walking papers, we have Nicole Hannah Jones. Now, if you aren't familiar with the name, you are certainly familiar with her academic work, because she was the Pulitzer Prize winning writer who was one of the leading voices of the 1619 Project. And it was almost a foregone conclusion. This is one of the most widely consumed pieces of academic work over the last 2 years. We were commemorating 400 years since the institutionalization of slavery and white supremacy as the official lingua franca of the United States of America in 2019. And COVID hit, and then all of 2020 was a discussion about canceling the 1619 Project, and the Orange Cheeto came out against it, and a whole lot of the GOPers came out against it, and there was a whole bunch of squawking about having it taught in schools, and how it should not be taught in schools.
Right. You're lying about history by telling the truth.
By telling the truth about it. We want our kids to be proud of America, not the fact that you
We were a
coloreds
shit ass country.
were, right.
Start.
You were
Did you
counted
say
as
you
3/5. I said the coloreds
The
were
color-
counted as 3/5 of a person for
Because
legislative
Native
priorities.
American his culture isn't even really a part of American culture.
Right.
according
There's
to
very little
whoever
Native
that judge
American
was.
culture in Rick Santorum. So
Right.
she was. A lot of the UNC faculty figured, well, this is such an important piece of scholarly work that she is guaranteed to get tenure. There are very few professors and doctors who get as much coverage about their work as this woman.
Yeah.
And it was everywhere. It was headlines across the country. And UNC decided not to give her tenure. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the faculty persons were up in arms. But I mean, as Chuck was saying before, it's still the South, y'all. That research triangle bullshit doesn't really mean that much.
No.
It's still the South. And so, unfortunately, she was denied tenure. And because of the blowout and all of that, since she doesn't have tenure to shield her, she is not going to continue to be at that institution. And so even though Morehouse, your alma mater, Chuck, has given her an honorary doctorate to go along with all the acclaim. And I think I called her a doctor before. She is not. She does not have an official doctorate. She has been awarded honorary accolades for her scholarship. But this is just what we have to deal with. That was a brilliant project, and I don't know if how many of you were aware of the podcast that accompanied it.
Yeah,
but that was an excellent podcast series as well. So
it was game changing.
It was
much of what people do now when they talk about critical race theory is cite her work in the 1619 Project. All of the research, all of the compilations, all of the collation, curating of all of that information that she put together to say, this is who we've been, and this is why we are who we are today. That is what we are now calling critical race theory. All of that you can lay at her feet. Nobody was talking about it, not in those terms, not in that way, until she did that. This was a seminal moment in history, and they're choosing, because of how they feel about it and the subjectivity of the color of her skin, they're choosing to not give her tenure over some bullshit.
That's
and
right.
It is absolute, as I think it was Patrice said, Ray Charles knows why she didn't get. Anybody can see it.
Oh, clear.
You know, Stevie Wonder's like, yep, I saw it too. You know?
Yeah.
Pulitzer Prize and the MacArthur Genius Grant. This is not a woman to take lightly.
Right.
She's not.
This is a brilliant scholar.
And Tom and Joy, I agree with what Brother Jason said. She needs to go and take her talents to an HBCU.
Right.
It's she's a gifted thinker, and students that will appreciate the perspective that she will bring. All she needs is a place that she can go and teach, because she's going to continue to write. The bulk of her money for the rest of her life is going to come from books, articles, as well as lecture and TV appearances. So go home to an HBCU, make your six figures.
That's right.
At one of our schools, touch the next generation of scholars. And Tom and Joy, I want to hit home on that point that you just hit on too. With it frustrates me to no end, just like it does you two, that there are people in this country who want sanitized, whitewashed, no pun intended, history here in America. And again, like I wrote the other day, I don't understand. That doesn't make you hate America to acknowledge that Thomas Jefferson was a hypocrite, writing about inalienable rights and pursuing life and liberty and happiness. And yet there were 500 enslaved blacks that were killed and unhappy and all of the above on his own plantation. And so that doesn't make
they weren't humans.
Right, exactly. We need to talk about that, because it's not about just dredging up the past. The past is with us right now. I always love that quote from William Faulkner. In the South, the past isn't dead. It isn't even the past.
Well,
kind of a quote that we have to keep in mind, because the mess that we're dealing with now, whether it's voter suppression laws based upon BS, whether it's, castigating the poor for taking welfare, when we're looking at PPP loans like we talked about last week, where it's wealthy whites getting millions of dollars and at the same time texting anti-poverty BS on their social media pages. And people I know that are doing this. Not I heard. I'm like, wow, you hypocrite. Are you for real? I see what you write on your timeline too. Interesting that you were in line with your handout, Mr. Anti-Welfare.
Right.
So with that in mind, we've got to talk about where this country has been so that we can try to chart a better future.
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate on the topic of having Black scholars and leading lights take their talents to an HBCU, as I'm sure most of you are aware, last week it was announced that Felicia Rashad is going to become the Dean of the College of Fine Arts at Howard University. This is a stunning picture of her, by the way.
Yeah, it really
Felicia
is.
She really
Rashad
does look amazing.
Yeah.
looks amazing.
Amazing.
Go ahead, Claire.
Go ahead, right? And so this is just one of those things where it is good to see our people. And I understand she was a Howard alumna, so that coming home is great. Now, she is not going to be full-time on the yard. She still is a working actor. And so when she does have projects, she will take time away. But that is not so different from what other deans do. It's not like every dean sits on campus all day, every day, taking office hours and whatnot. But she is going to be an important person who helps to lend her voice and her acclaim to advancing the cause of the arts at Howard University. And we are so pleased to see her return home. And we can only hope that along with people like Neon Dion, we did an extended talk about HBCUs, but that these people bring the spotlight back to these institutions. You know, Chadwick Boseman was a Howard alum. Taraji P. Henson, of course, Diddy, Lance Gross. I mean, there are people who are doing things in the arts from these institutions. And so it is good to see them support those institutions and highlight those institutions. And I mean, this radiant queen is doing the damn thing.
Cheese balls.
And Tom, were you in the connection at the same time as Anika Noni Rose, or was she after you?
She was after me, but we did cross paths.
Okay.
So FAMU Connection is a performing arts troupe. I was in it during my entire tenure at Florida A&M, and we would travel the state and we would do recruiting with President Humphreys, and it was music and dance and acting. And
y'all were great.
It was an amazing time. I got to sing some Porgy and Bess in there. I got to sing some Pearly in there. And we just had a blast. And so, yes, Anika Noni Rose, then Daniel Condon. Now you would know him as Daniel Sunjata. So the first black dude on Sex and the City, he played the sailor during Fleet Week that had a little hookup with Sarah Jessica Parker's character. And then he has done a whole bunch of other stuff, some series stuff, and he was even in The Stand. He was also a rattler. Meshack Taylor was a rattler. So there's lots of people who have done amazing things in the arts, and we're just so happy to see that Madame Dean Felicia Rashad taking her talents to Howard University. You know what, Harry? You are loving on me. I really appreciate it, bro. Your kind words every time make me smile. And we love everything from the Sharpies. Someone who was not giving as much love to his former compatriots is a person who literally lit up, I think, probably all of our timelines this week. This brother was on one. Ooh, man. I don't know who pissed in your uncle's Cheerios, but he was salty as hell. Now, Chuck, you are much more of a sports fan than I am. Tell me what you thought was your favorite, most choice quote from Kwame Brown, because Kwame Brown said, "I am not here for it.
Yeah,
and I'm about to read the hell out of you."
Brother Tom, I'm not gonna lie to you. That was an hour and 20 minutes well spent listening to Kwame Brown break on those guys. And the reason I appreciated him so much for it is because he has taken so much mess from so many people over the last 20 years, and he seems to be a pretty decent guy. He's definitely intelligent. When you listen to the hour and 20 minutes of the read that he gave to former NBA stars Steven Jackson, Gilbert Arenas, Matt Barnes, and pundit, what's his name, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh.
When you listen to it, in between the cussing, and there was a whole lot of N-word getting thrown about and a whole lot of cussing that was going on. But in between the profane words was a lot of profundity, where he was talking about the fact that he was an 18-year-old number one draft pick back in 2001. And so for those who haven't been put up on it, what it is he has been picked on forever for what people call a bust. And one of the things that he broke down so eloquently in between the cussing was the fact that if you make it to the NBA,
right,
make it to the NFL, you aren't a bust. That's incongruent, because that's only a small percentage of a percentage that actually make it to that level. And he played for 13 seasons, made over $60 million. So to call him a bust, to have the Stephen A. Smiths who never played the NBA, or the guys on social media who consider themselves to be rec arena all-stars and what have you, or even PlayStation all-stars, talking about he's a bust, it's kind of, you shouldn't do that. You've got to appreciate what it takes to get to that level. So he broke down why it was that he never had a Hall of Fame type career when he was being profound, but it was the profane that really was something else. I think out of the profane issues that he hit upon, he talked about Steven Jackson being Black Lives Matter 1 minute, and the next minute running around at 40-something years old with his pants sagging, gun in his pocket, and a bandana, acting like he's a thug. All right, that's number one. Then he gave Matt Barnes some. Matt Barnes is a lighter melanated brother. He's the one whose wife got taken by another dude. I think it was Derek Fisher, if I'm not mistaken, basketball player, but his wife left. And so he was quoting the Mac, frat brother, and what have
Max Julian,
and what have you, about you sitting up mad because your wife chose. He said that about 20 times. And every time he said, you mad because your wife chose, I was cracking up every time he did that. But then he called him Rico Suave. And then he also called him Becky with the good hair multiple times during it. And I just was sitting there thinking, how is this dude, like, how do you not, if you're Matt Barnes, go find him? You've got to knuck up and fight when somebody breaks on you like that, huh?
You only knuck if you buck.
Well, this is true. And then the funniest thing was he got on Stephen A. Smith too. He said, hey, this dude isn't even a real Q dog. He said he ain't no Q dog. He's an honorary Q. Said he didn't pledge. He wasn't online nowhere. He's honorary. And who does he think he is? And so the whole line of it was just, he was calm. I saw one of my friends posted, one of the captions that said something to the effect of, if cuss their ass out and go to sleep was a person.
Right.
That's essentially what he did here. He told them about their ass and he went on about his business. And I was there for it because, again, he has been picked on for 20 plus years and he's not out there in the street acting a fool.
He is not.
Back to the profound stuff. He was asking these guys, he says, why don't y'all do stuff like start rec centers for these young boys? Why don't you give shoes? He talked about the fact that when he was a young boy, he couldn't afford shoes. So he had to win a pair of shoes on the basketball court from a guy. And so that's why he's so into giving shoes to kids who don't have them. He said, these guys could be doing so much more, but they're sitting here on air talking shit about me, calling me a bust. They were not ready. And it's funny, their podcast is called All the Smoke. And he kept saying, he said, they just want some of the goddamn smoke. They don't want all the motherfucking smoke. I'm here to give all. And I just was like, wow, somebody give this dude a towel, put something else in that hookah to help him relax, because he was on one for about an hour and 20 nonstop too. No breaks.
Well, I think probably something that got him in his feelings was this. You got to take down, there you go. On December 20th, 2005, Kobe Bryant and Kwame Brown combined for 63 points. Kobe scored 62 and Kwame scored 1.
See, that's not nice. That's not nice.
But I will tell you what, he brought all all of it. You have to. People don't realize when you have finished your career and you earned $60 million and you didn't trick it all off, all you got is time.
Yeah.
All you have is time.
Right.
And he said, I got time today. And he was just chilling. Just like, I mean, calling that man that light-skinned gal. I mean, Bashida Velasquez, he was not playing. And even Jamel Hill, she was she was like, no, I don't ever want Kwame Brown mad at me.
No,
I don't
the
need
personification of smoke.
that was all the smoke.
Y'all, I had an assistant principal down at FAMU High tell me once, way back in 4th grade, some of the truest words ever spoken he was like, be careful about the quiet man. He was like, the quiet ones are the ones you got to watch, you know?
That's right.
And I have seen it happen more than once. I remember my senior year at Morehouse, another funny story. I lived in Kilgore Hall, and across the hall from me and one of my best friends, Richard Allen, that year, we were rooming together. And there was a guy that we were all friends with since freshman year. I won't call his name out because he might be watching. But long story short, he was a quiet, easygoing brother from Cleveland, never caused no trouble, always had his Sony Walkman on, going here, there, and yon. And he had a roommate that we used to derisively call Johnny Gill, because this dude really thought he was Johnny Gill. He didn't look like Johnny Gill, really didn't sing like Johnny Gill, but he thought he was Johnny Gill and tried to comb his fade and the Gumby like Johnny Gill. It was ridiculous. So that was his nickname, Johnny Gill. And Johnny Gill was just going off on him one day about, I need the room because the young ladies come in, blah, 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 just breaking on him in the hallway. And Johnny Gill was taller and bigger than the guy we're talking about. Very humble dude, whole 4 years. When I tell y'all, he beat Johnny Gill's ass like he was his father, right there on the 2nd floor of Kilgore Hall. And me and Richard are two big, strong dudes. And it took all that we had to pry this dude's hands from around Johnny Gill's neck as he was bashing Johnny Gill's head. And I was like, you're going to kill this dude, man. So it was another example of leave the quiet man alone, because when they snap, or the quiet woman, when they snap, you ain't gonna be ready for it.
You don't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying he applied that choke and didn't rub him the right way?
Did not rub him the wrong way, okay? Rubbed him the wrong way. I'm trying to tell you, I still remember.
I got my hands around your neck and I start to squeezing your face about to check. I mean, that's feel good. Yeah, so you just don't, he's got the lean and hungry looks. Shakespeare said it centuries ago. You best leave them quiet ones alone. Best leave them alone. Just like coffee. Like the drink, but spelled different. You never know what somebody's gonna do when he steps out that cage. And still waters run deep. That's right, Jason Hayes. You done said it. You said you had to pry him.
Man, I'm trying to tell you, I thought Johnny Gill was about to die. So we're gonna be a witness to a homicide here, and we 6 weeks from graduation. You know,
right? Everybody get the story straight.
Right.
It was like they would have found him.
Right. Like he'd have had enough, man. He's had enough. Let him go.
And I do it again.
Right. Exactly.
So we have a moment of reflection. We lost a great one this week. When it came across my timeline, I forget who the first person was that posted it, but I was awakened early, and so I just happened to click on Facebook like I do, and they had announced that Paul Mooney had passed away, and it was so fresh on my timeline that I didn't even see any other corroborating reports. It was like one blog. And I was like, well, how come I'm not finding this? And I went to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia hadn't been updated yet. And then it was like 10 minutes later when like the major news sources started carrying it around. And I didn't know of Paul Mooney as a child, the way I knew of the people that he helped to make famous. So,
Yeah.
he was a writer for Richard Pryor, and of course I knew Richard Pryor. But Paul Mooney really, I think, came into my consciousness in maybe the mid 90s. And there was I don't know if it was the Chris Rock show, or maybe he just got
Robert
a special
Townsend and his
It was
partner
Robert
in crime.
Townsend. That's what it is.
That's it.
Mhm.
And he had this thing, and I won't use the word, but he had this little sketch about black news. And he said, if I was doing the black news, it'd be 2 pancakes holding watermelon slices in tap shoes. And that visual was just the funniest thing I had heard in a while. And he delivered the news, like the black news, like such and such got caught today because you should have stayed your black ass at home. And I said, I need to know who this brother is. And then he kind of had like a rebirth for me on the Chappelle Show.
Yeah,
Because
Negro
Ask a
Dominance.
Black Dude. Well, Negro Dominance and Ask a Black Dude. So he became like a regular fixture on the short-lived Chappelle Show. And it was just one of those things where once you found out the pedigree of what he had done in his life as a writer, it was impossible not to appreciate him. And so to hear that he passed was a shock to me, and something that I was, I was feeling a way about it. But we want to comment on Paul Mooney. I'm going to let you guys have your chance to talk about your favorite Paul Mooney bit, or how you were exposed to him, or just what you think of his comedic legacy and what he has done he was 79, I believe. Died of a heart attack at his home in Oakland. So take it away, guys. What do you think about Paul Mooney and his impact?
Well, I will say my first recollection of Paul Mooney was on Robert Townsend and his partners in crime. I watched him do his stand-up bit, and I just remember him talking about going to war, and he said, I didn't see no Uncle Sam. I saw a bunch of Sambos on that front line. And I remember that line, and it sparked something in me, like, he's right. And I thought about how that was the first time I started really thinking about how misused Black people have been in American wars, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Like, they throw us out there, and use us as cannon fodder. And that's what he was talking about. He was talking about some really deep stuff in his stand-up. And I am absolutely sure, I know in my soul, that he has done some problematic things. I'm absolutely sure, because if you watch Richard Pryor's old stuff, Strip, he wrote a lot of jokes for Richard Pryor, and most of what Richard Pryor has said in his lifetime wouldn't be allowed on television right now.
Facts.
But it was comic genius, and it was truthful. And that's what I always liked about him, even when I was a teenager and I saw him for the first time with Robert Townsend. And I remember thinking, oh, he's old to be starting his stand-up career. I ain't had no idea at the time.
Right.
For 20 years at that point.
That's right.
He was a legend and a fixture, and it was like an honor for other comedians to have him come and grace their show, which is when you see him on the Chappelle Show, he ain't dressed up. He has on a turban and a robe. Like, I showed up today because I felt like it, because that's the kind of clout you have when you are Paul Mooney. Right. And a lot of things that we probably think are hilarious, we probably could lay at his feet, and we just don't know. He wasn't as public as Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock or Richard Pryor, but he was writing in the background, and probably some of the funniest stuff we've ever seen, especially if it's on the edge of propriety. It was probably Paul Mooney. And so I thank him for pushing the envelope and making white folks uncomfortable for 50 some odd years. Here's to you, Paul.
Amen. And only thing I add to that is, Joy and Tom, y'all hit it out the park. The brother was just was amazing. He was an amazing, brilliant human being. And one of the things that I have always appreciated about comedians is the ability for them to take serious subjects and yet through humor make us all think. And that's important because, and we do that even on our lower level here, where none of us are going to ever be mentioned in the same breath as Paul or Richard Pryor or an Eddie Murphy. But we have some comedic timing here because sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying about some of the serious issues that we deal with. And I've always felt like, the thing I keep seeing a lot of people say or write on social media is that he was the realest. He was a real one. We lost a real one. We definitely lost a real one. We lost a voice who was consistently crying out against white supremacy and racism around the globe and here in the United States of America. And we will see his light no more. But at the same point, those of us who have enjoyed him, those of us who enjoyed Richard Pryor and what have you, it is our charge to make sure that we too continue to speak the truth out here, especially as we just got through talking about that we're in a time within which truth is often being dimmed by fiction because, again, the powers that be don't want the truth to come out. So, again, rest on, brother. I was, not in a good mood the rest of the day after I saw that news the other day. Tom, it was funny to hear what you just said. I do the same thing because you never want to be the person to post the breaking news.
That's right.
And then have to issue the retraction. You'd be like,
Right.
That ain't dead. He just fine and what have you. And it does. You keep hitting refresh on Google, like, come on. And then once you see, okay, they're reputable, so I can take that to the bank that he indeed is dead. I was doing the same thing, hoping beyond hope that what I was seeing on my timeline was, someone jumping the gun. But indeed, he had passed, and I wish him good rest.
Well, I don't know which of the streaming services. I don't know if HBO Max maybe has it or Netflix or Amazon, whatever. You guys got to put that back out, negotiate with the family, the estate, and get that stuff back out because he was a treasure. And that perspective, that kind of unvarnished, uncut, unapologetic perspective is one that we can always use. And I like to think in some ways, even though we are not attempting to claim that we match Showtime, that we match his genius, we certainly are spiritual acolytes and are following in the footsteps of people who continue to push forth truth and honesty in a way that also is tinged with humor, because that is a way to make the medicine go down, as it were.
Absolutely. If you look at the history of Black comedians, every single one of them is an activist. If you listen to
Dick Gregory, Richard Pryor, even problematic ass Bill Cosby, even problematic ass Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, all of them. If you listen to their stand-up, they're spitting truth. Chappelle was talking about cops breaking in and planting evidence in like 2005, right? He was freaking some crack on him. I remember that. Yeah.
Look at this Negro that broke into this house and put pictures of his family on all the walls. Beat him, sprinkle some crack on him. I mean, we laugh, but there's truth to it. Red Fox. I remember on an episode of Sanford and Son, where Lamont was telling him that like obesity or whatever was the number one killer of Black people. He said in like 1979, I thought it was the police. So we don't know about
for laughing, but
yes. They've been talking about it forever, and Paul Mooney was right there with all of them, writing a lot of these jokes. And so, to your point, because we do know that we live in a white supremacist society, we know that sometimes you have to put some sugar with the medicine, so to speak. Comedians have always been able to at least get the majority to listen because they know they're going to be able to uncomfortably laugh about it. Right. But you can't act like you ain't heard it, because we've been saying this as long as we've been having stand-up albums.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't albums, it was music. We can go to Billie Holiday. We can go to Sam Cooke. All these songs that come out, poetry, literature, all of our art, however it looks, says, leave us the fuck alone. We're just trying to live.
That's all we ever wanted, Joy.
It's all we've ever
wanted. And I just don't get what, I've never understood why we are hated like so badly by so many in the majority race here. And again, it's not all. And all the Sharpies that are white, we love y'all. Non-Sharpies that are white that are allies, we love y'all too. But the non-allies, the haters, the enemies, I've never quite understood. Never in my life have I awakened and hated somebody based upon the way they look, the way they pray, or how they choose to make love. That just is not in me. It's just not. And it makes me realize that folks like we are the civilized ones, and yet it's the ones who claim that we are not civilized that are the ones that are not civilized, just to be honest with you. And we just have to continue to push back against the foolishness and the web of lies and deceit that so many of that ilk continue to throw out here. It's just frustrating. I mean, I just don't get how, and it really frustrates me, thinking back to what we were talking about the sister who got axed up there at North Carolina, all those brothers that are going to be playing football for the Tar Heels here in about 2.5 months. Their basketball team that has been one of the most storied programs of the last 40, 50 years. I know they won championships before then, but really most people, when they think of UNC, they think of 80s, 90s era Dean Smith, and they think of Michael Jordan and James Worthy and Sam Perkins and all of those guys. Those were brothers that were winning those championships and elevating the Tar Heels to that level. And so it frustrates the hell out of me to think that some of the same folks down here in the South who have the nerve to talk trash about us being uncivilized or hating us by the way that we look are going to be filling these stadiums up here in just a few weeks. This past week, the University of Florida, my law school alma mater, issued an edict that they're going to fill the swamp up come this fall. I knew it was coming. I mean, and I'm sure in short order, every other damn school in Dixie is going to do the same because they want 80, 90, 100,000 screaming folks out there cheering on these same young black men that they would lock the door if they saw them approaching the car as they're leaving the stadium, or pull their weapon and shoot
in uniform.
Yeah, in uniform, or shoot because they were afraid. So I get sick of the hypocrisy, but we got to keep putting it on Front Street, just like Paul Mooney and all of these great comedians that we're talking about have throughout their careers.
I'm gonna say something controversial, and that's saying a lot for me because I don't think much is controversial, but I know that whatever. Fuck it. Here we go. Yeah. So here's why so many people who identify as white hate you, because their identity, their very sense of self is tied to the fact that they are better than you. If they have nothing else in their lives could be crumbling around them. And very much so, a lot of their lives are crumbling around them. They hate their wife, they hate their kids, they can't make ends meet, they don't know what to do, they are desperate and they are sad and they despair. But at least they're better than you. And then here come your chocolate dark ass showing up with a law degree. How fucking dare you do something that I haven't been able to do? It must be affirmative action. You can't be that good. You can't be. You absolutely cannot be, because it goes against everything I believe about myself. Even the, what was it? I mentioned it before. Lyndon B. Johnson said, the lowest white man, if you can make him think he's better than the best black man, he will empty his pockets for you. That's a truncated quote. But what he's saying is they will give up everything to hold you down and hold on to the idea that even if they are sitting somewhere without a pot to piss in or a bucket, a window to throw it out of, they're still better than you. And when you give lie to that by being a CEO, a president, vice president, chairman of the board, public lawyer, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, all of these things that are better than them, unequivocally better, it cracks their mentality. No longer can they say I'm better than the best black man, because the best black man was leader of the free world, and I don't have a high school degree. So it engenders violence. If, like my mother used to say, you done lost down to a squabble, where you can't have any other ideas, you can't argue effectively, you can't debate efficiently. So what you do, you throw punches in the form of lynching, in the form of police brutality, in the form of passing laws to make sure that you can pick a fight and then kill somebody because you started losing said fight. All of this goes down to holding on to the idea that they're better than you, which has been a lie from the start. And that's the lie that the 1619 Project exposes, which is why they don't want to teach it in school.
Listen, you're
brilliant.
The very thing you're talking about, Joy, was laid bare, and I'm 90% sure this was a Jane Elliott exercise, because she's really good at doing this. But she sat in a room, and one of her white attendees was talking about how affirmative action, and it's so easy to be a black person, and black people have it all, and whatever. And she said, "Okay, which one of you would trade places with a black person today?" And those hands went like. So if it was really true, if like Joe Rogan says, pretty soon a white man isn't going to be able to say anything, the poor, oppressed 6F cis male isn't going to be able to have a platform when you are literally making 9 figures, you clown.
Yeah.
You're making 9 figures. You fear factor clown.
What have you ever done other than watch people eat roaches and horse dicks? That's what you do for a living.
That was your thing. And now you just yell and you smoke weed, and yelling and smoking weed and watching, not even eating roaches. Watching people eat roaches got you 9 figures. $100 million for a podcast. You ain't even got a show.
Y'all serious? Who is this guy?
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is like a wannabe Howard Stern with 30 years less experience and 90% less talent.
You know what's funny is most people know Joe Rogan as a fictional name that Dave Chappelle spit, most black people, that Dave Chappelle spit out when he was pretending to be the crackhead on Fear Factor. He's like, let me tell you something, Joe Rogan. Like that's when most people heard Joe Rogan's name, and that dude is making $100 million.
So it's just one of those things where you can say, oh, he's not legendary.
No.
And if he was that legendary, you would have spelled his last name right. No, Jason, it's A-N. He is not a legendary stand-up. Robin Williams was a legendary stand-up. Okay.
Sure. He was.
George Carlin, Jerry Seinfeld. These are legendary stand-ups. Joe Rogan isn't old enough to be legendary, and I don't even know that he even has a special like that.
He can't pull the crowds that Kevin Hart can pull.
Hell no. No, he's not legendary. He is a legendary mouth, and he got Fear Factor probably because he was a stand-up guy, just like Colin Quinn was a stand-up guy when he got that the MTV, that game show that he was on. Don't goose him up.
Do not mistake legendary and notorious.
Right. Infamous.
They're famous for being assholes.
Right. Yeah. And that's and look, the thing is, Howard Stern has been doing that since the 80s. But Howard Stern has earned his money. He has earned that money. Joe Rogan didn't even come up like that until, like Joy said, after Dave Chappelle. He was on Fear Factor. I mean, no, you don't get to do that. But while we are on the topic of comedians, thank you, Paul Statton. Nobody can say anything in his jokes. Yeah, okay. We're going to talk about something different, though. We lost Paul Mooney, but what we did gain is the 2nd season of Black Lady Sketch Show. Now, I will tell you, I was not as enthusiastic about season 1 as I thought I would. Issa Rae is the executive producer. Robin Thede is also an executive producer. And Robin Thede is clearly the artistic lead in the show. She is doing a lot of the writing, and she is in most of the sketches. And, you know, she is on team unmelanated, or very little melanin. But she does a lot of characters. And I have to say, after the end of season 1, I was like, there were some sketches that I thought were really funny, but there were a lot of sketches that I wasn't really super a fan of. Yeah. But in season 2, I have been much happier. First of all, they shout out a different world in their opening sequence, which I thought was precious. And Robin Thede
they change it every week.
They change it every week, which is really cool. So Robin Thede is the Whitley, and so she starts off and she kisses herself, and then she steps through the thing. But at some point in each of the opening sequences, somebody either hits a dude who lands on the floor. Black Lady Courtroom was hilarious. And they had Laz Alonso. Is that his name? Laz Alonso.
Laz Alonso.
He was in there looking a little heavy. I don't know if
leave my baby daddy alone.
he ate a couple of extra cheeseburgers during the off season of the boys. But Black that thing. They had the Age Ain't Nothing But an Auntie, which is a hilarious sketch about this woman turns 35 and all of a sudden she's an auntie. She's trying to turn up at the club, and her fairy god aunt comes on, and Sharon is here. Speaking of aunties, come on in, Sharon.
Hey,
what it do?
We stayed on long enough for Sharon to join us.
Driving my ass off listening to y'all. Like, I
Okay.
think I might make it. They just getting the Paul Mooney.
Yeah. Well, we tried to spend 30 minutes just
Y'all
whiling.
did.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're talking about Black Lady Sketch Show, and I don't know if you're up on it, Sharon, but I am really enjoying this season. They've had a couple of really good sketches. They've replaced 2 members, so it's just like Destiny's Child. Latavia does not exist anymore. They done got two new ones in there. They got a Michelle and a Michelle's friend, and so it's a different mix. But so they had 3 people who came back, and then they got the 2 new young ladies, and they revisioned their apocalypse thing. So the first season apocalypse sketch was a dream, and Robin Thede fell out, and when she woke up, it was 2 new people in the sketch. So that was kind of a cute way of transitioning, and so they keep that conceit going. But I think the sketches are stronger this year. They had an amazing sketch about twerking, which featured.
When did they restart?
4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I
gotta
think
catch up.
this is maybe the 5th week, but it's a
Okay.
much more even show, I think, this season. Go ahead, Joy. Talk about it.
Yeah, I just like some of it. I think there's something for everybody. For me, there are some Tyler Perry moments. I was like, y'all could have kept that. But again, that appeals to someone that just isn't me. And I appreciate the range that they have. Some of it is very cerebral, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. I see what y'all did. And some of it is slapstick. So it's something for everybody. And what I like is showing the range of what Black women can do in comedy. We don't have to be the funky sidekick. My favorite sketch is actually the invisible secret agent.
I knew you were gonna do that. I knew you were going for that one. Yeah, she's awesome.
Like, I'm literally right here. Why you don't see me? This is why I'm so successful, because she goes around unnoticed in life, and it's just it's smart humor. I love that. But then you have, like you said, the twerking. I remember the first season they had the basic bitch ball, and Billy Porter. No, it wasn't.
Oh my God! Yes.
Bob the Drag Queen was playing the Billy Porter part. And now we have awkward in the body. And I was like, that shit was great to me. And so I love the show. And I applaud the effort that's being made. I applaud the production value that's there. And I love to see it. I love to see that. I love Two Dope Queens, even though it only had like a 1-year run.
Right.
I'm looking forward to the finale of whatever Insecure is about to be next season. And I'm just loving the variety of Black entertainers on television, specifically HBO and Netflix. They be trying to bring it.
Yeah, Carla asks if she can skip season 1 and just start with season 2. You can, or at least look for the highlights of season 1. There were some funny sketches in season 1, and one of the sketches
better.
It got a lot better in season 2. One of the things that is great about season 2 is that they continued this bizarre take on gang culture, where there's this gang of, they're all women, and they wear coral instead of Crip blue or Bloods red. And the girl who is the main gang member, her little accent is right on point, and she's doing like the sea walking. I mean, it's really amazing. And then Robin Thede has this male character. He's kind of like a trash dude, but he's a fuck
boy.
Yeah, and he's got the braids and the 5 o'clock shadow, and it's so funny because it's a real clean look, and Robin just completely embodies the character, and so I think you'll enjoy it. I certainly was very pleasantly surprised to see the shift, and even from the opening credits, everything about it is just a lot stronger and smarter and tighter this season. So I can't recommend. Oh, and that damn Michael Che. That's another great show if you're looking for something to jump into, and you like Michael Che. It's very much a Michael Che experience.
Right. It's reminiscent of the Chappelle Show in that they talk to him a little bit. Like it seems like he's doing an interview by somebody off camera, and then he talks about something, and then it goes into a skit. But very well done. I like the Michael Che, that damn Michael Che show.
Right.
Zway on Showtime. I haven't heard of this one, and I need to look it up. I don't have Showtime.
It's a new show, and while we were on the topic of Insecure, my frat brother Prentice Penny, who was the showrunner of Insecure, is debuting a new show on HBO. It's called Pause, and it features another female comedian, and it's kind of an interview show, and they've got people coming in from the audience, and so there's lots of opportunities for Black comedic voices out in the space. I am sad to see Insecure go, but we've got, you know, like we said, Issa Rae is doing her thing with Black Lady Sketch Show. It seems almost certain that they're going to get renewed for a season 3 because this is a really, really strong season so far.
Now I want to watch it.
Oh yeah, you got to. It is serious.
What are you talking about?
Well, I was talking about Black Lady Sketch Show, but I think Joy was talking about Patrice and her.
Which one did you say is real serious?
For Z-Way.
What did you say was real serious?
None of them are serious.
No, none of them are serious. This is all comedy show.
You said Insecure.
Insecure.
Got it.
But
they never planned on going beyond this season for Insecure.
Oh, wait. She says she's too old for. Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the problem I had with the first season of Insecure. I was like, why do they keep making so many stupid decisions? Oh, they're 29.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. I lived through that already. I don't want to do that again.
I don't miss an episode. Once I got clear that we lived through that, Joy, then I had to like back up. Like,
right. I'm like, okay. Then I decided. I wanted to be. Oh my God, what's her name? The one that embodies me so well.
Oh, you're talking about Kelly. Oh my God. Can we have a Kelly spinoff? Insecure Prentice, please.
Kelly can really have her own show.
Give me a Kelly spinoff. Please give me a Kelly spinoff.
And I would like to start a petition to have myself play Kelly's auntie or mother, because I feel like I could play the shit out of that role. I just want to meet her. I love her. I follow her on Facebook. She's on my vision board. Kelly is life.
Yeah, Kelly is amazing.
Remember me, my friend? She's my favorite.
I hope they give her. I hope they develop her character more in this final season.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's a lot going on. When we left last season, obviously the biggest thing is that possibly the most hated character in the history of Insecure turned up pregnant, just as Issa and her boyfriend were getting, or friend boy, whatever the hell that thing turned out to be, just as Lawrence and Issa were getting back together. Here she come, and people are like, "How?"
Lawrence be slinging some dirty dick, man.
That broke my heart.
He done had a couple of venereal diseases. He just out here just raw dogging everybody. Why do we want Lawrence? I am not a fan of Lawrence
because she cheated on him.
I get that, but he still ain't got raw dogging other people.
I'm just telling you why we love him. Because
you know what? I call
and
me.
He's the one that, usually it's the woman that spirals. He's the one that spirals.
But
I was some chlamydia.
I was team Issa on this because first of all, Daniel, our other frat brother,
Kelly was a heavyset one that looked like me.
Yeah, no, Kelly is. She's the one in the meme.
She's life.
With the who goes the that meme. She's in that meme with the that meme with the other one that I don't like, the Sadiddy one, who probably cheated on her whipped boy,
the one that had
her
the
whipped
nervous
husband.
breakdown.
Huh? Yeah. Right. The nervous break postpartum.
That's what I mean by I
depression.
want them to develop Kelly, because they even developed her with some manic shit that we weren't prepared for.
So Lawrence's best dude, the light-skinned dude who ain't shit, he's epic. I like him and I like Kelly. I could watch that show. Even if they were together, I would just like half the show could be his stupid shit and half the show could be Kelly, or it could be all Kelly. I'm team Kelly.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, Kelly's the one that got tased at Coachella. When they were trying to So, like, I'm going to give y'all this one. So, remember when she was looking out the window and she was like, who's laughing? Shut up, bitch. Like, I've had that moment in the last, we'll say 16 months, where I had maybe a little too much wine or maybe a couple too many edibles. And like, I'm like, who is making that noise? I live alone. So I'll be channeling Kelly in my everyday life. And so I love her to death. And Auntie Sharon, you'd be very proud of me. I have not had any of anything today other than Everclear and fruit punch, which is gone now. So
I swear you make me
Second
feel like
glass.
I'm missing a piece of life. Like somebody needs to slip me an edible or something.
come to Atlanta.
Full confession, I've never smoked weed. I am like the ultra nerd.
I never smoked weed either. Smoke weed. My vape pen doesn't count.
She ate it, smacked it, flipped it upside down.
A few Rice Krispie treats in my time and some gummies. But you know what? I will bring you some when I come to family's homecoming.
I just think I need to, be a stoner in my old age or something.
Why the fuck not? Yes, I'm putting out a lot of curse words.
I stopped taking life so seriously. I heard y'all getting emotional. I have to add one quick story about Paul Mooney.
There you go.
Because I was really trying to race to get here when Al posted that on your page, Chuck. And while we were being good parents, we were like, we get there so you can tell the Paul Mooney story. I was like, damn, Al. But Al and I were real comedy show junkies when we lived in DC. And we would find every hole in the wall. Those are, especially with big name people like Tracy Morgan, we slipped up in his. One day we slipped up. I don't even think he was the headliner. And Paul Mooney was on the stage. And it was in DC, right? We used to go to New York all the time for the comedy club, but we were in DC. And we went in there and, we started frequenting this place. They used to hook us up. And before Paul Mooney got there, they were like, oh, we're going to move y'all up, Miss Hicks. And they put us like damn near sitting on the stage, right? Which is not the best seat to have in a comedy club, let's be clear. But it was extra packed. And Paul Mooney, and if I could have squeezed myself in a hole, like, please don't come for me, please. and he was, I'm sitting here and he's right here. So close. Oh my Lord. Do you know my mama was calling into the computer as I'm talking to y'all? I want you to know this is not a cute story either. He had all these clouds in his nose. And he was sitting so close. Yes, Joy, that moment. And you can't get up and walk in a comedy club when Paul Mooney's on stage. You don't want none of that smoke. You don't want. We were sitting so close that his sweat was blinking on Al's bald head.
Wow.
And mind you, I didn't know how to do this because I knew he was going to Jones me, right? And he was doing some serious commentary. And all I remember him saying is, "Can you sit still, sis?" And I was can you just clean your nose?
You blowing boogers on me, man.
Yeah.
Please. And I was like, just tear me apart. Because I try to be quick with the mouth. I was like, not Paul Mooney.
Right. You didn't want to.
But when I say I am still a huge fan. I know I have his DVD somewhere around here. I'll upload it because he was selling books. But everything y'all were saying, he's so old school. He did not become an outward celebrity until he was old. And what's so interesting, of course, I heard everything y'all was saying, teenager. We didn't know who he was because he was our parents' generation. He's literally old. He died older than my mama. And it's such a testament to how talented he was to know that he started his life after Richard Pryor died. He's like, I can hear him saying, I wrote all that shit. I might as well be a celebrity. And I don't know if any of you heard D.L. Hughley's breakdown of him today. That's what I really want to talk about. D.L. gave the most amazing tribute to him. And everything out his mouth was, I know this was a complicated man. I know, and I think it was Joy that said some of the stuff he was saying, you could never say it today. DL broke it down today. And he was even coaching people like Dave Chappelle and Eddie Griffith. So you think about how edged their comedy was. He really took on the new school, but he absolutely demanded his respect of the new school. And he was on tour with the George Lopez, D.L. Hughley's crew, Cedric the Entertainer, that whole, I forgot what their tour is called. But D.L. broke it down like we were never good enough to be in a room with him. He did this whole thing about the GOAT, greatest of all time. He was like, I know when you that person, they want to call you the GOAT. And he ended by saying, but Paul Mooney was a lion. And that touched me. This was, I think it was earlier today. It was either today or yesterday. but it was, I mean, I could hear all the emotion in DL's voice. And that's how I felt like I would be disrespecting my granddaddy when I was sitting underneath his nose. But it was one of those moments like, I just gotta suck it up, Joy. Joy. I was in that moment like it was so painful and the comedy was so off the chain. I was just trying to, and he was like, "What's wrong with y'all? Y'all can't applaud me?" He really did have that chip on his shoulder because he was always so behind the scenes. He could tell that the newer generation, which ironically was us, the newer generation, he felt we didn't appreciate him.
Right.
Because we didn't know his history as well. And DL broke it. I mean, DL is our generation. DL broke it down so poignantly. And if anything, you could catch DL's show. I'm pretty sure it was today. Today's been a long day for me. Earlier, he really does this whole thing on Paul Mooney that will really make you appreciate it as we move towards being an elder or really understanding that level of vanguard.
Mm-hmm. I put something in the chat just from because I looked it up. So if you get a chance, this is only a clip. It's a clip of Richard Pryor's roast, where Paul Mooney was officiating Richard Pryor's roast. The whole thing is about 45 minutes long. I think that's a 9-minute clip. But if you click on that, you'll also find the 45-minute entire roast. And you got Paul Mooney, you got a very young Sandra Bernard, who is now on Pose as a nurse. Her career goes all the way back to like the Richard Pryor show and everything. Robin Williams is there as a nobody. That's how they're like a young up and coming comic. Robin Williams. He had like 2 seconds. And it's interesting to see like this whole lineup of Black comedians roasting Richard Pryor. And Richard goes so off the Marshall Warfield is there, Robin Williams there. Yes, exactly. Wow. He goes so off the rails that I'm surprised they leave it on YouTube because it's extremely offensive. Everything that opens his mouth and says is like, oh my God, how did you get away with this? But it's interesting to see Paul Mooney, a young Paul Mooney, they're talking to each other. They're working about, talking about how they got to know each other. There's some very crass and vulgar things in there. But if you want to check it out, just Google Richard Pryor roast Paul Mooney and you'll find it. Mm-hmm. But I also put a link in there somewhere. This one. There you go. It's in there somewhere. R.I.P. Paul Mooney. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover tonight.
There's one thing that, well, there's technically two things, but one thing that I definitely want to bring in as a drag because I hate him. So, one-time presidential hopeful, now bootlicker for the Cheeto-in-Chief, Ted Cruz, called himself tweeting a link to an unsourced, unverified, quote-unquote, Russian army recruitment video. And, of course, it being supposedly from Russia, lots of stoic images of soldiers getting their haircuts and all of this sorts of thing. And he contrasted that with a new release from the Army where a female service member was talking about the inspiration of her two moms that inspired her to serve. Now, let's take into consideration that countries like Israel, for instance, women fight hard. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, was in the Israeli army. So it's not shameful or whatever to be a woman and be working to protect your country. It's in fact a lot more, Ted Cruz, than you have ever done in terms of service to your country. I mean, while we're getting into it. So he said, perhaps emasculating our armed forces is not the best idea, or words to that effect. To which he immediately started getting the life dragged out of everything from his beard to his obscenely large COVID gut to the fact that people reminded him that Donald Trump called your wife ugly, said your daddy killed JFK, shat all over you,
And you still swallowed.
You dogged him out at the Republican National Convention when you thought, as a second place person, you could still come from the floor. And now you are literally licking clean the boots that he walked through shit on to step on your wife's face and your daddy's face. And you were sitting here talking about emasculation. So emasculate Ted started trending. This is Tammy Duckworth in this picture, because Tammy Duckworth is a woman who actually served her country. She served her country to the extent that she lost limbs in defense of her country. She is also an Asian woman, and her advocacy for anti-Asian hate crimes has been a big part of what has brought her to the news today. But the idea...
Wasn't she a pilot in the military?
I
think she was a fighter pilot.
She could have been a fighter pilot. I always thought she was an...
That's what sure we give her credentials.
Yeah, well, Joy, if you can Google that while I continue. Yeah. So this is a woman who has served her country and acquitted her country to a high degree of sacrifice. And the idea that this turd blossom was disparaging the Army's attempt to show more stories of people who serve. It's not just one type of person who served, like that new South Carolinian, I think, representative who looks like a golden boy, except he got in a drunken car accident and paralyzed himself, supposedly while he was on his way to Annapolis. But Annapolis said, yeah, we never accepted you, so we don't know what you're talking about. Collie Mather. So he's just been getting dragged. You can do hashtag emasculated, and you can see what people have been saying. But he got the dragging he deserved, because Ted, you are trash. You are complete trash.
U.S. Army helicopter pilot.
There
Since
you
we're
go.
going to talk about women, let's make sure we give the accurate credentials. Right. And she was a retired lieutenant colonel.
There you go. And so I didn't say she was. I did say she
I didn't say you did. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that
right, we give her all of her credit.
She's not just a service member, but she happens to also be an Iraqi war veteran, helicopter pilot.
And so
to that douchebag,
right? That nothing. Who the last plane he was on was flying to Cancun during COVID, and then throwing his own children under the bus. That's what you did, Ted.
He is the fucking worst.
That's your serve, Eduardo, half Canadian Rafael Eduardo Cruz. F you, dude. F you all the way.
All the way
to hell. Just F you.
Joy, I really appreciated your breakdown of why they hate us.
Mm-hmm.
When you and Chuck, that he's a further representation of the turdsters that walk among us. And I hate that I missed the lion's share of the show, but I just wanted to shout you out that I really appreciated how you broke that down. And
Thank
really,
you,
that's right.
I know Chuck is having a hard time. We all are this week, and I'm sure y'all covered all the travesties. Happy birthday, Chucky.
Thank you, baby doll. I appreciate you. As I was telling Tom before we came on, my back hurts. One thing about getting old that sucks is you live 40-something years and you never heard of your sciatic nerve. Then one day that MFer goes off the rail.
She's a bitch. She's a bitch.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to tell you. And so I was telling Tom earlier, I have held off on the real narcotics to get through the show. But just as soon as we wrap, I'm about to
go to bed.
Yeah, man, because I feel like somebody's got a knife down the lower part of my back and just sticking it in. But thanks for the birthday love, Sharon. I appreciate you.
And for his birthday, Sharpies, I became an annual subscriber.
Yes, you did.
Observation.
Yes, you did.
So if there's anything that you all would like to do special for Chucky Poo, you need to become a subscriber. As I really call it, I'm a life member.
Jaren, I smile from ear to ear when you sent that gift, and like they say, we'll write for food, right?
When I first saw that link, Chuck, I was like, "Is this a Subway loyalty promotion? What are we stacking?"
Yeah, man, I'm trying to tell you. It's and again, Sharpies and everybody's responses have been very overwhelming, and I'm touched because all of us on this stage, we all are alpha type personalities, but even as an alpha, there's a part of me that's always been like, are people feeling this shit that I'm writing? And it's the humility, or like they used to say in my church growing up, being humble. And I'm like, I think so, but will somebody spare, a $5? I guess you can get a Happy Meal nowadays for $5 a month. What it is, but the response has been really good so far. And so I am grateful, and I'm going to keep doing all I can do to give my best, and as we do. So thank y'all very much.
While that scrolls across the bottom of the screen, I'm just going to put my 2 cents in on this. Y'all, those trash ass breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's that cost you $5 with tax. And I know some of y'all are shoving them Egg McMuffins up in your face with a round egg or a scrambled egg every day. You can take one of them sandwiches and throw it to your boy. Go on ahead and get you one. Even the McDonald's, the twofer deal, still almost cost you $5 with tax. So go on ahead, take one sandwich, 1 cup of coffee, 1 Wendy's breakfast combo a month, and save them calories. First of all, at the end of the year, once a month, that's probably like 2,000 calories. That's 1 pound. So you're doing yourself a favor. So go on ahead, support your boy, support Steel Sharpen Steel. We here for you. We give it to you every show. Go on ahead and show out. What we will do this week, though, for gangsters, because we are really trying to get Chuck onto his pain meds, I will just say this. This is something that Joy put in the chat, and this was a gangster move. I'm sure a lot of you are aware that after Kevin McCarthy pleaded with the Democrats to throw a lot of stuff out of the planned January 6th commission and investigatory body, because, of course, the Democrats control the House and the Senate. And so there was an idea that perhaps there might be 6 Democrats to 4 Republicans. But he asked for equanimity and all this other stuff, an independent campaign, blah, 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 blah. All this woo-ha, he was talking for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when it came down to the time to the vote, of course, the orange toadstool weighed into the conversation and decided he wanted to jam it. And so because he wanted to jam it, all of a sudden, Kevin McCarthy, who is fresh off of dissing the hell out of Liz Cheney, decided, well, no, we can't do it. Fortunately, there were some people of conscience in the GOP party, and it was a bipartisan vote. On the House side, 35 members of the GOP joined with the Democrats to support the creation of the commission. In the days before the vote, Mitch McConnell came out with his little absence of lips and toadstool face, tortoise face, and said, we don't think we can support the commission. It's going to be a partisan exercise. And so what we got from an unnamed group of Capitol Police. Now, of course, the Capitol Police leadership has said, we don't even know if these people are Capitol Police. But the Democrat who introduced the letter on the floor definitely is asserting that it was from Capitol Police. Now, you can't read this, but basically the content of this letter is dragging the GOP for filth. Oh, so y'all was hiding behind us when we had guns drawn when those people were coming into the Capitol, and then you're going to describe it as a normal tourist visit? And they brought the receipts. They showed that clown from Georgia screaming. Go ahead, Joy. Thank you.
So leave it up, and I'm going to tell you what it says. We, members of the United States Capitol Police, write this letter to express our profound disappointment with the recent comments from both chambers' minority leaders expressing no need for a January 6th commission. The brave men and women of the USCP were subjected to hours and hours of physical trauma, which has led to months of mental anguish. If you look around the Capitol building, you still have doors that are broken, windows still smashed, and in some cases missing. Officers are forced to go to work with the daily reminder of what happened that dreadful day. On January 6th, where some officers served their last day in the U.S. Capitol Police uniform, and not by choice, We would hope that the members whom we took an oath to protect would, at the very minimum, support an investigation to get to the bottom of everyone responsible and hold them 100% accountable, no matter the title or position they hold. It is inconceivable that some of the members we protect would downplay the events of January 6th. Member safety was dependent upon the heroic actions of USCP. It is a privileged assumption for members to have the point of view that it wasn't that bad. That privilege exists because the brave men and women of the USCP protected you, the members. Lastly, with each passing week, a new revelation about January 6th reveals itself. A new indictment comes to light, another newsreel of USCP officers being assaulted is released, or some breaking news regarding somebody's involvement. With these constant reminders, it is unconscionable to even think that anyone would suggest we need to move forward and get over it. Unfortunately, this letter comes to you anonymously because as U.S. Capitol Police officers, we are expected to remain neutral and do our jobs with honor and integrity. It's unfortunate that our bosses, Congress, are not held to the same standard that we, the USCP, are. Signed, proud members of the U.S. State's Capitol Police Force.
That's my picture of the year still. I'm sorry. I know we're still on the Capitol Police Force, but that picture there.
Yeah,
Right.
Kwame Brown was the unsigned member of the USCP.
Right. If I'm sick of your shit was a picture.
Yeah.
Right. He's even got that little sneer. You see the sneer in the lip where he's got his little action figure behind him.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Woo.
So, hey.
Hey, Mom.
All right, come through, audiobook.
Speak it into existence.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could read the 1619 Project.
Think I won't when I will, because I will.
True that.
Will. Hey, holla at me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well-
you know, Joy, that letter is indicative of even what you were saying about what they think. They're also willing to take out anybody that disagrees with them, even if they look like them. I mean, I think that this insurrection, and I'm happy that certain police officers are stepping up. I had this huge discussion this week about how you gonna vote against the people that's still protecting you right now.
Right.
Like, have y'all thought of the consequences of that? You know,
Right.
some of these people are committing suicide. There's
Just
no
think
reason that some of them ain't gonna just pop up on you. I'm like, how do you not even consider that? When you're voting against a commission to get to the bottom of the assault that they experienced.
Because you trash.
Trash.
Because you trash. That's what, we know when we talk about comedians, we even know ourselves, we speak what we think, and we'll take that risk. But are y'all crazy? Like, the police is now saying to y'all, we have a voice and we can do it under anonymous pen, but you need to think twice, Trick, about how you continuing to assault us.
Trick.
Because we the one that you expect to stand in front of you if some shit go down. And we might be like the two white boys that stepped aside when homegirl was going through the window. She got her ass blown away because they stepped aside and said, go for it if you want to. Y'all remember that?
I'm not gonna do. Yeah.
They said, oh, you're not about to come for us. We're going to step aside. And she got popped seconds later. So I don't even really understand how these congressional members, well, I do understand, Joy, because everything that you just said, but it's one of those moments where I'm like, you do know you in the Chocolate City, right? And it's the white boys that's committing suicide. You do know there's a whole lot of brothers up in there. And all it takes is one to just go, flick. I'm just like, so to me, that letter is a warning shot. That's a warning shot.
Yeah. We hear that Josh Hawley is in trouble.
Right.
Come again? What was that?
Right. Meanwhile, they're gonna be like,
Exactly. Exactly.
No, it's just tourists. It's just tourists.
Yeah.
oh, you said
It's
they
just
were
tourists.
so
It's some more
Right.
tourists.
I thought they
Taking
were
pictures.
taking pictures and things.
But you know what? Somebody put it, Sadita, white supremacy above all else. They will sacrifice their own to maintain the lie.
I definitely believe that.
Above everything else. That is the core value that must be protected over all other values. They'll kill their own children. And I'm not even exaggerating. If you think about the way they ignore vaccinations and global warming and the future of the world in order to maintain their power at the moment, they'll sacrifice their own children in the pursuit of maintaining this status quo. So hell yeah, they sacrifice a few cops whose names they don't know. They don't care about them. They never did. They were just a means to an end. Thank you for protecting me, but I'm not going to have your back. And so as
they realize this shit could go two ways.
Yes.
You know, and I'm gonna put out my prediction now, because I prevailed on a couple of my predictions. There is a Republican billionaire prediction that's putting up $1 billion to gather up Tricky Dick's daughter's crew, the 35 of them. The 35 that voted with the letter was the 35 that didn't get to vote for her. So she's pulling those 35, and then all those Republicans. You saw the lieutenant governor from Georgia decided he ain't running again. That shit, watch the coordination. Watch how civilized Republicans are deciding. A billionaire has put up money to say, I will bankroll y'all for 2 to 3 years. I'm a build, because you got to finance them. They stepping out, crackers believe in that money. Okay. They safety net. So some of those Tricky Dick daughter crew and the other civilized people, the Arizona crew that's speaking out all of a sudden, like they're not going to leave it up to us to figure this shit out.
No.
Okay. They realize how uncivilized this is. I mean, that 35, the lieutenant governor from Georgia, the Arizona crew, you're going to start seeing people pop up and just say, I'm not running anymore. But their voice, they're going to get CNN contracts. They're going to get MSNBC contracts. And there's a billionaire that's going to fund the what is the anti-Trump crew called?
The Lincoln Project.
No, the Lincoln Project going to continue. No, it's like what they call them, never Trumpers. Okay. Yeah. There's going to be a never Trumper crew that's not going to take his name. They're going to come out. It's going to be the sister organization to the Lincoln Project. And it's going to finance all these people. You're going to start seeing them. They're not going to get off the scene, but your lieutenant governor was the first one that made me say, Joy, I was like, something going on here. And then the 35 popped up. I said, okay, at least they not totally conceding. Because a few weeks ago, they felt like they were totally, you could take your pill, Chuck. I need you.
Cough, Michael Bloomberg, cough.
Love y'all. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get.
Well, wait. Let's allow you to sign off, because I do want you to sign off. It's your birthday, man. You can't just dip out without signing off.
Yeah, man. Love y'all.
Are we good? We'll pick it up next week. We'll be back next week. We're gonna be back next week. I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Chuck Hobbs.
I'm Sharon Letman Hicks.
And I'm Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel. Bye, y'all.